Hey guys, welcome to Indian Creek Bow Hunting Journal. This is the Bow Hunting RadNek, and on today's episode we have a review for you for the Mathews V3 27. I was shooting up until I started getting this thing set up. I was shooting the PSE Evolve 28. This is a 70-pound version and I shoot 65 pounds, so I had to crank it down just a little bit. Love this bow, love shooting this bow, but what happened was I actually shot a guy's V3 at one of the archery ranges, and I was like, man, I thought the Evolve had no hand shock and shot really smooth, but when I shot this V3, I was like, wow, it was pretty. There was a wide range of difference. Let's just put it that way. In the level of bow, I think. Anyway, so we're gonna jump into this. I shot the 31-inch and the 27 at my local bow shop here, and ended up going with the 27. I thought this thing was going to be the string angle was going to be too much, and I also was thinking just way too short. 28 inches is about as low as I want to go, but I do a lot of tree stand hunting, and I also do a lot of blind hunting, and I've had larger bows that have popped the top of the blind while you're trying to shoot a deer and mess up your shot. So I ended up going with the 27 because with this longer riser, man, it shoots like a bow that's like a 31-inch bow. So this longer riser really helps out. But we'll go through that as we jump into this. So set this up last night. Got my peep put in, my D-loop, and also mounted on my sight off my old bow and my CAD Ultra Rest Hunter, and got that served in, and everything's good to go. Shot it a couple of times last night, really smooth. Have not paper tuned it. I'm going to do that this morning, and then we're going to start sighting it in out to 80 yards. Then we're going to take a couple of weeks, and I will give you the full review at the end of that couple of weeks of shooting it. Hey guys, the bow press I use in this is a screw drive homemade bow press. If you want to see how that is made, just go down below and there'll be a link there, and you can watch the video of how I make this for about, I think, $50, $60, something like that. Also, if you want to see how to tune a bow or how to put a bow together, a brand new bow out of the box maybe, or a used one that you want to set up yourself, I've got a video for that too. That's in the link below. Nothing new under the sun, one life to live, seeking fun. But shallow is the self-lived life. For me, myself, oh, so much strife. But Jesus is the answer for a life perplexed and wanting more. It's never easy self to deny, but it's the only way to a life on high. Just a quick disclaimer, I have never been paid by PSE, nor am I being paid by Mathews. You're going to get my RadNek opinion, exactly what I think about this. And the first thing is, this bow right here cost me this deer right here. I've literally had 1 day to hunt with this bow since I've owned it. I've had it for about 8-9 days now, and literally this bow cost me that deer. So you'll hear that story, how that happens, as we get into this video. So let's get this rolling. First thing, this comes in a 27-inch model and a 31-inch model. The difference between shooting the 27 and the 31 when I was in the bow shop was very little, other than the fact that this shorter bow seemed to have about the last 3 or 4 inches of the pull into the valley. It was a little stiffer. I don't know why that is. Probably has to do with the draw force curve, but that was just my experience. Another thing is the center cable containment system they have this year puts this bar here at a 45-degree angle and sets all your bus cables at the center point of the bow. Makes it a whole lot easier to tune it, plus puts the same amount of stress on these cams on both ends. Makes for flinging arrows in a straight fashion, if you will. Also gives you a little bit more vein clearance. There's also the extended bridge risers that they have. They've got a lot more cutouts than in past years. They also have this different cutout system. What they did in that sense was they were cutting the weight while they were trying to shore up and make sure that this riser is as stable as possible, because the less flex in this riser, the better, more accurate the bow is going to be. Reason why I haven't bought Mathews bows in the past is because, I mean, I always thought they shot well, but they were just so heavy. I did not like them being heavy. When they got down, you know, to the 4.5 and under range, I piqued my interest for the V3. That's why I went and checked it out. This new limb cup system, or limb cups that are smaller, again, trying to get some of the weight out. I've shot this bow now 5 times. I already paper tuned it. You'll see that in a minute. But it's a very stable system to shoot off of for sure. They have the new 3D dampening system, which is the Nano, I don't know, they call it Nano 740 or something like that, or 750. Can't read that, don't have my glasses on. Anyways, the Nano system, and they say they have harmonized this bow with this particular riser. They also have the concentric cam system. They've had this, I think, on 3 different versions of Mathews bows now. I know the VXR has it, and the one before that, I don't know what the name of it is. Again, I'm a PSE fanboy, just breaking out into the Mathews realm. I had a Mathews bow back in, I think it was 1994, 1995. Don't even remember what model it was. It was back when they had the single cam system, catch us if you can motto. And like the bow, but I just don't remember what bow it was. Never have owned one since then. So this cross-centric cam system, I really like it. It's a little faster than my PSE Evolve 28 at the same 65 pounds, because I tested it with this model, the 27-inch model, and then my particular bow that I have. I think it's back on the wall back there. And this one was shooting at about 307 or 308. And that one at 65, 66 pounds was shooting at about 304, something like that. So very comparable, but a little bit more speed, I think, out of these cams in the Evolve cam system. Next is the Engage grip system. I don't know about these systems, these grips. Never had a rubber grip before. I've always shot the PSE on the bare bow, just the metal grip. They say you can take this off pretty simply and put side plates on it if you want to fill the bare bow behind it. I think this is going to suit me fine. We'll see as I begin to shoot it more and more. They also have the enhanced stabilizer bushing right here. This is something that I believe PSE's been doing for a year or 2, 3 now, in putting these bushings, and now Mathews, I think, is given a little bit more solid of a base by putting in a steel receiver there for the stabilizer. Then the last thing is what they call the SCS system, Silent Connect system, but doesn't have it on this bow. But anyways, I don't really need that on this bow, and the reason is it's just another selling point for Mathews. But anyway, that's what comes on the bow. All right, we're going to paper tune this thing. All right, we got a tear. Looks like a down to the right tear there a little bit. I'm gonna, since my D-loop is spot on or set, it's pretty set, I'm not gonna be able to move it. I'm gonna actually move the rest up just a hair and see if that takes care of the problem. All right, that one's still tearing just a little bit down. I'm gonna raise it up just a hair. There it is right there. I just got it dialed in all the way out to 80 yards. First quick impressions is I definitely at this point can't shoot it as accurate as my PSE Evolve 28, but it's a very different feel, so I've got to get used to it. I'm going to do a lot of shooting over the next 2 weeks. Check it back in with you. It's so dead in the hand, I'm almost got target panic going on. It's weird. So it's a very different platform than the PSE. So PSE fanboys trying something new. An old man, it's hard to learn new things, but we'll give it a shot. Also, one other thing I'm noticing is this bow is definitely heavier in the PSE Evolve, which probably affects my accuracy too, because it's a little harder for me to hold those heavy bows for longer periods of time. All right, we're going to do some long range shooting here. 80, 60, 40, and 20 yards, 3 arrows apiece. I've had about a week to shoot this bow now, and I've got it dialed in pretty good, so here we go. All right, that's not too shabby at 80 yards. We got one in the yellow and 2 in the red. I've been normally shooting about 6 of these. About on the 5th day and 6th day I started shooting the bow pretty good, and I'm normally shooting like 3 in the yellow, 2 in the red, and usually 1 in the blue. That's been about my average, but this isn't too bad at 80 yards. Let's go do 60. Ah, that was right. All right, shooting a little bit on the high side. If I could have got that down a little bit, I would have had all 3 in the yellow, which would have been nice, but not too shabby at 60 yards. I want to get that group a little tighter, but I've actually been shooting a little better than this over day 5 and day 6, so this isn't too bad at 60. All right, these two aren't too bad at 40 yards. I'd like them to be tighter. I've actually been shooting a little tighter at 40 yards. This one, I felt that one kind of fling off me, but halfway decent. That'll kill a deer at 40 yards anyways. I would say that's a good group. They would almost be touching each other if they were in the same spot. But I think I need to adjust my sight just a tad. 20 yards, so. All right, guys, I've been shooting this bow for almost 2 weeks now, and I think I have a good enough sense or feel for giving you an impression on what I think of the bow. And again, you're getting the RadNek opinion. I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel about this bow. The first 3 days of shooting, I was not shooting it not even as close to accurate as my PSE Evolve 28. And so I started trying to diagnose that, and I figured it out. There were 3 main issues. The first issue was hand position on this bow. This grip is so different than my PSE bows, where I used to shoot my PSE bows kind of like gripping like this, if you will. It's hard to explain. But with this one, I found that as I pressed my hand, the more of the heel of my hand into the rest as I shot, gripping like this, I found that my accuracy started to go up. The second issue was the issue of let off. My PSE bow, I was shooting at 90% let off, and this one is set at 85% let off. That's as high as you can go on this bow. I found that in shooting the 85% let off, that my PSE bow had made me quite lazy, I guess you could say, on the back wall whenever I was shooting at 90% let off. It was so simple to hold that bow back. It's almost like you had to push the string away from you. So what I started doing was pulling harder into the wall, and that also started when I started pulling harder into the wall, I saw my accuracy start to go up again, so there wasn't so much of a creep problem anymore. Then the third issue has to do with hand shock. This bow is by far the smoothest hand shock resistant bow I have ever shot in my life. In fact, my mind was playing games with me the first 3 days I shot this, in the sense that when you would shoot it, it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like doink, and the bow hardly even moves, With no hand shock, it was like this weird feeling that you were dry firing it or something, like there was no arrow leaving the bow. It was so smooth. And the way I could describe this, I tried to think about how I could describe this, and it would be like shooting a rifle, someone handing you a rifle, and you're shooting, say, 500 meters, and that's a long ways to shoot. And they tell you you got 3 shots to hit a paper plate at 500 yards, okay? So take your time. And they give you a bullet, and they say there's 3 bullets in this gun. Now shoot, you get 3 chances, you're going to win $1 million, say, okay? So you're going to take your time on those first 2 shots, and let's say you miss those first 2 shots and don't hit the paper plate. And the third one, they didn't tell you, but they only put 2 bullets in the gun. And the third time you're shooting, it's like that dry fire when you're expecting a boom. And almost every time I was shooting this bow, it was like I was expecting that boom, but it never came when I released the arrow. And so I had to, that was more a mental thing. I had to get it out of my head that this bow was actually shooting the arrow. And of course you see it fling out of the bow. But it was a weird sense that I had to get rid of. And once I got that out, that mentally out of my brain, my accuracy went up again. On day 3, I actually shot a couple of times. And the second time I went out to the range, I shot on the 11th arrow shooting out of this bow. I actually had this bow derail on me. Now, I mean, I have never had a bow derail on me when I'm shooting. And so I'm shooting, I've got 2 arrows in the target at 40 yards, and I pull back and I shoot, and the thing makes all kinds of weird noises, and thank goodness the bus cable saved the whole bow from probably blowing apart. Don't know. But as it derailed, the arrow shot and hit about probably 8 inches low. And I'm looking at a derailed bow, and so I stick it in my car and I drive immediately to the bow shop, and I say, I'm at the guy that I bought the bow from. His name's Joey, great guy, man. Appreciate Joey helping me with this bow. Handed him the bow and said, you know what, I'm at the point where if you don't give me my money back from this bow, I'm going to sell it on eBay for as much money as I can get and just go back to my PSE Evolve. That's how frustrated I was at the end of day 3 with this bow. Well, long story short, we diagnosed the problem, and the problem was actually a knock failure. And I actually went and got my arrows out of my bag, and we saw that clearly that the knock had failed and broke. And so that's what caused the derail, so it actually was not the bow. So it made me feel a little bit better, but I'm still a little squeamish about going back and shooting this bow. And after shooting it for all this time, I realized that it really was that knock failure. So it wasn't a bow issue, it was actually a knock failure, which relieved my heart because I paid a lot of money for this bow. One last thing that I think affected my accuracy, which may not be true for you, was that I don't like heavy bows. And when I first started shooting the bow, the first 3 days, I had about a 10-inch limb saver stabilizer on here. And without anything on the bow, this thing is very well balanced. And I mean, when I was shooting it without anything on it at the bow shop with just a whisker biscuit, this thing was very well balanced in the hand. And when I put this sight on, it made it a little bit top heavy, not bad. But then when I put the stabilizer on, it made it really top heavy and wanted to pull the bow forward, plus made it heavier, and I don't like heavy bows. So what I eventually did by about the 4th day, I just completely took the stabilizer off, and that's how I've been shooting the bow, and another way that my accuracy went up. And so because of this harmonic dampening system that they have here, this thing's far enough out here that I shoot really accurate without any kind of stabilizer on there. If I did put a front stabilizer, I'd have to have back bar, and then I've got even more weight just to get the bow stabilized again. So then by day 4, things really started beginning to tighten up, the groups did. By about day 5, it really started clicking that all those issues were dried up once I started consciously thinking of those and dealing with them. By about day 6, I'm shooting groups about the same as I'm shooting my PSE Evolve. So I'm getting happy now. This love-hate relationship is turning into more of like a love relationship with the bow. So by day 7 and 8, I'm really beginning to love this bow because my groups are getting tighter. I'm actually many times shooting tighter on day 7 and 8 than I was shooting my PSE Evolve, because it's just so smooth when you shoot. And then, so day 9, I actually went out to my property where I hunt and, to fix some water issues that I have out there from the great Texas freeze last week. And so I got out there and I checked the cameras, as I always do, thinking I'm going to be working on water the whole time, but I had some big old axis buck that were coming, so my mind moved away from fixing pipe to hunting axis deer. And sure enough, these axis deer showed up. And this is the story where this bow cost me the biggest axis deer of my life. And it wasn't really a bad thing. It was a bad thing because I was really like frustrated that I missed the deer. But the reality was, my old PSE bows, and I'll just show you this video here. This is last year me hunting and killing this axis doe. And this doe is about 10 yards from where I had a shot at this axis buck. And you can tell from the video, when I released this arrow, it was a quiet day, just like it was last week when I had a shot at this axis buck. And when I released this arrow, the PSE bow I used to think was quiet, but it is really noisy compared to this bow. Because as soon as I release that arrow, you see that axis doe already ducking. And so I purposely shoot low. Once you get out past 40 yards, that deer, 45 yards for the arrow I shoot, the weight I shoot, and my setup, that deer can be as much as a foot and a half lower than when you actually release the arrow. So you have to shoot low. You have to aim for underneath its chest at that kind of distance. And I killed that doe. It ran 30 yards and recovered it. This bow, I aimed the same way. This deer is maybe about a yard or two further than this doe was. And I thought, okay, I'm going to aim the same way I did with this doe. Set my 40-yard pin about midway up the deer, or a little bit lower, is where I was shooting that doe. And when I released that arrow, it was kind of like, rather than doink, it was like doink. And as you can see from the video, that deer never ducked. And so that's how this bow cost me my biggest deer ever. If that deer had started ducking on the shot of this bow, clearly from the video, it would have been a heart shot. So I mean, it's a good thing from the sense that deer can't even hear this thing when it goes off. And it was a quiet day. I mean, it was quiet. That deer only ducks because it heard the noise of that arrow coming at it. And that arrow's maybe 5 feet, maybe 10 feet at the most from that deer when it starts ducking, and so it clearly went under the deer and missed it. So would I go through this all again with my PSE, with this Mathews, switching from PSE, being a PSE fanboy? I would say yes, because this bow, between the bows I've shot in the past, this one is night and day difference. It is so sweet shooting. This cam is smooth and fast. Personally, I think it's pretty ugly. But I would rather functional than pretty. I mean, a lot of people think this bow looks real pretty. I think it's a pretty bow, except for the exception of the cam. It just looks like some big oblong pie or something huge. But functional. And I would go through it all again, just because I think I'm going to have many years of hunting with this bow. It's going to be hard for any bow company to outdo a smooth, quiet shooting bow. This is definitely quiet enough to where I'm going to have to adjust the way I shoot at deer now that are out at 40 or 50 yards. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that RadNek review. I told you you'd get my honest opinion, because I'm not paid by anybody. Be sure and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and we will get you future notification of the videos that come out in the future. Thank you for watching.